After the release of the Where is Wendy documentary, a lot of people have wondered how her team could have allowed the project to move forward given Williams' deteriorating health. And speculators have asked who greenlit the film with the motives of her former manager, Will Selby, and her former publicist, Shawn Zanotti, being called into question. Others have said that the film needed to be released to document the dire circumstances of Williams' lives, with some urging greater examination into the guardianship under the guardianship which Williams is under. Now, while I certainly have questions about all of this, I want to focus on publicity and try to level set some of the expectations that people have around publicists. Now, I don't know Shawn Zanotti. I have no idea of what her character is or anything like that, but I just want to talk about some misconceptions about what publicists can and what they can't do. And the reason I want to do this is because as I was paying attention to the commentary around the project, I realized that many people, they don't have a good sense of, again, the limits or the confines of a publicist-client relationship. And then there are some people who, even if they have a sense, and let's say they need a publicist, they may not know how to go about finding the right one. And so this video will really be broken down into two parts. I'll talk about what a publicist can and can't do, and I'll talk about the nature of the publicist-client relationship. And then I will end by talking about how a person would select a good publicist if that's what they needed to do. So let me just say that I share this experience as someone who's worked in public relations for around 20 years and also as someone who spent time serving as a publicist for pretty influential people. And again, whenever a celebrity gets in trouble, people ask, where is the publicist? Why did the publicist allow this? Why didn't they stop this? I mean, if you think about what's in the news cycle right now, there are questions around Usher's trip to Bali. Apparently, he linked up with Russell Simmons while he was there. And some people have questions about why he did that. I've seen people say, after a successful residency in Las Vegas, why would he go and spend time with Russell Simmons, who is facing his own series of allegations? And this also comes around allegations about Diddy and Usher's involvement or prior involvement or that kind of thing. And so some people are saying, why did he go to Bali? And why did he spend time with Russell Simmons? This has also come up again in the context of the Wendy Williams documentary. But generally speaking, whenever a celebrity does something that people can't explain, they always say, or they don't understand, or they don't like, they always say, where is the publicist? Or, this person's publicist must be working overtime, or they're not working enough, or, and then you see the memes, especially when someone gets in trouble, you see the memes of like a publicist, sweating or on the phone trying to sort out different situations. So this is something that I wanted to talk about for a while around the limits of what a publicist can and can't do. And first, a publicist can only be, or they are effective to the extent that they are included and consulted. So not all publicists have tight relationships with their clients, nor are all publicists consulted before the client takes one course of action or another. So a client and a publicist has to get to a place of deep trust. And the publicist has to not only earn the trust of the client, but also the management team that supports that client, the family members around that client. And so if there is a soured relationship or a strained relationship or no relationship with the manager, the management, or the family, or the client, there's going to be a breakdown in communication. In the best scenario, the publicist has earned the trust of everyone who is around the client or everyone who has influence on the client, including the management team and the family. And so the publicist is receiving information possibly from all of those different entities that are operating or orbiting around the client. And so they're receiving information from the client, they're receiving information from the family, they're receiving information from the management team. And there is a sense of deep trust. And when there is a sense of deep trust, the publicist is likely to get more information and they can lean in. Now, the other thing that I want to note is that a publicist cannot force their client to do anything outside of the client's will. I tell people all the time that my job is not to control my clients, but rather to give them the truth as I see it and to point out the pros and the cons of various courses of action. I am not looking for uniformity in beliefs in terms of hiring or working with people who see the world completely the way that I see it. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people with whom there is a relationship, someone who I believe is genuinely a good person. Like, that's very important to me, and someone who is doing something to make the world a better place. But even once I find that, it doesn't mean that the client needs to toe a certain line, right? My job is to speak the truth and to, again, point out what could happen if the client pursues one course of action or another. But if the client decides to do that, that is their prerogative. The only thing that I can do is point out to them, here's what I think is going to happen, and here's what I recommend. Now, sometimes you work with clients and they have many people who are in their ear and many people who are telling them to do X, Y, and Z. And in that case, you navigate to the best that you can and you find out who the client listens to. You try to cultivate a relationship with that person, and then you try to get that person to believe and to see things how you see it and to offer the same recommendations that you might offer. But again, the point here is that publicists are not always consulted before a client takes one course of action or another. To the extent that I am consulted, I try to offer my honest opinion. Now, this doesn't mean that I get it right 100% of the time. My batting average is not bad, but I will say that, my job is to offer my honest opinion, and my job is to help the client see the various possibilities. Now, the other piece that I think is really important to note is that even when you offer your perspective, a client may still decide to go another direction. And in that case, you almost have to be prepared to pick up the pieces or be prepared to manage the fallout and then to help get a different outcome going forward. And so that's, those are really, I think, the limits of what publicists can and what they can't do. And so I just wanted to share that and clear that up. The other thing that I want to share is that if you're watching this and you say, okay, well, there were questions about Wendy Williams, the motives of her publicist. How would a person even know what to look for if they were hiring a publicist? And I have a few things that I think are important, and I'll just share those now. So I think that when a person is hiring a publicist, they want to look for someone who has the technical skill. And so the publicist should have the requisite skills to help a client communicate their message, garner media coverage, manage their brand, and think proactively about how to avoid a crisis. So the best crisis management is crisis prevention. And so having the technical skill to foresee what could become a crisis down the line and helping the client to sidestep it is really, really important for people who are publicists or in the public relations space. It's also important that the publicist has industry expertise. You want someone who understands the industry in which the client operates. You want someone who understands the nuances of the industry, someone who knows what they don't know so they can contact other people to fill in the gap. And you want someone who's willing to seek input and to solicit input, but from the right people. And so you need someone who knows the industry that you're in. I also think that connections are incredibly important. You want to look for someone who has relationships with the media, with other publicists, with influencers in the niche in which you occupy. So you essentially want someone with an extensive Rolodex, but also with the personality to grow that Rolodex and to manage the relationships that you already have, right? I am leery of turning people away if they don't have an extensive Rolodex, but they have the personality to go out and to meet people and to draw them in and to engage them. So it's almost like a balancing act there. Now, obviously, you want to look for someone with a good reputation. You want someone who is drama-free. You want someone with a proven track record of success. And you want someone who has a reputation for managing conflicts well and delivering results. I also think that it's important to identify publicists who have outside interest. Now, it is clear that the publicist must be committed to a client's brand and garnering the right kind of coverage. But I think you also want someone who has a life outside of you. You want someone for whom you are not the center of their world. Because if the relationship sours and this person sees you as the center of their world, you are going to have problems. You want someone who understands and who appreciates that working with you is great, but that they have a life separate and apart from you. Now, I think to appreciate this and to really want it, there has to be a level of healing that has happened and development with the client before you can really appreciate that you want someone who has their own outside interest. I think that it's incredibly easy, when you are surrounded by a high profile client and when they have money and access and influence, that can be very alluring. And if you are not centered and if you are not grounded and if you don't have a life outside of this person, then your focus will be pleasing this person versus telling this person the truth. And if you can't speak the truth to your client in love and help them see what could happen and have the courage to be honest with them, you're going to become a yes person. And that is not beneficial to the client over the long run. I also think that it's really important and this is for any position, but integrity is underrated. But whether you are hiring a publicist or an accountant or whatever, you need someone who has integrity. There will be a lot that a publicist does that you will not see. And you don't want to wonder if they're being honest or if they're behaving deceptively. So you want to look for someone who has integrity. Now, you may say, well, how will I know that out the gate? Look for the clues, but also ask people about the person with whom you're interacting. And the final thing that I'll share for this video is that you want someone for whom there is a personality match. And so you can find a publicist who has the technical skill. Maybe they have a Rolodex out of this world. But if there isn't a personality match between you and this person, you are going to have problems. If there isn't a personality match, then that is going to set you up for problems that you just don't need. I firmly believe that not every publicist is appropriate for every leader or every influencer. And so having the right skills is the baseline, right? That gets you into the door. But you have to have some kind of alignment so that you are able to work successfully together. So these are just some things that that I thought about and that I've been thinking about even beyond, what's currently in the news cycle in terms of the limits to what a publicist can and what a publicist can't do, but also how a person would even look for the right publicist. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and you'll be notified whenever I post new content. And as I end, I just want to go back to this notion of not becoming a yes person. Again, when you are working with someone who's really, really powerful and they've got connections and everyone wants to be their friend, it can be tempting to not want to disturb the status quo, to want to keep everything, steady, and to tell the person what they want to hear. And then as a client or as, maybe a leader, if you're someone who makes it difficult for people to tell you the truth, or if you scoff, or if you are vindictive when people give you their honest opinion, that's going to shut them down. I think the best leaders have people who have the courage and who have been given the permission to speak the truth in all situations. Now, there's a way to do that, but I think that that's just very important for leaders over the long term.